It was a dark and chilly night in the heart of the forest. The campfire crackled and cast eerie shadows on the surrounding trees. A group of friends had ventured deep into the woods for a camping trip, seeking an adrenaline-fueled adventure. Little did they know that they were about to experience a night of terror they would never forget. As they sat around the fire, telling ghost stories and laughing, a sense of unease began to settle over the campsite. The wind whispered through the trees, creating an eerie melody that sent shivers down their spines, but they dismissed it as their imaginations running wild, trying to scare each other. Just as they were starting to relax, they heard faint rustling noises coming from the bushes nearby. Their laughter died down, and their eyes darted nervously in every direction. The crackling of the fire seemed to intensify, drowning out their pounding hearts. Suddenly, a bone-chilling scream pierced the silence. It echoed through the forest, causing birds to take flight and animals to scurry away in fear. The group huddled closer together, their faces pale with terror. They couldn't ignore the sinking feeling that they were being watched. One by one, strange things started happening around the campsite. Items would go missing and reappear in odd places. Unsettling whispers floated through the air, just barely audible. Shadows danced in the darkness, taking on sinister forms that sent shivers down their spines. As the night wore on, their fear escalated. They could no longer deny that something supernatural was at play. Desperate to escape the horrors of the forest, they decided to pack up and leave. But as they hurriedly gathered their belongings, a thick fog rolled in, obscuring their vision and trapping them within its ghostly embrace. Panic consumed them as they realized they were trapped, cut off from the safety of the outside world. Their pleas for help were met with an eerie silence, the forest seemingly absorbing their cries for assistance. The night grew colder, each breath turning into a visible mist. They huddled together for warmth, their hearts pounding in unison. Their once festive camping trip had turned into a fight for survival, their minds tormented by the unknown forces that lurked in the darkness. Hours passed like an eternity, until finally the first rays of dawn emerged on the horizon. With a glimmer of hope, they ventured out of their makeshift campsite, navigating through the thick fog. As they emerged from the woods, their faces etched with exhaustion and fear, they vowed never to return to that haunted forest again. To this day, the group of friends shares a deep bond forged by their nightmarish experience in the woods. They warn others to never venture into the heart of the forest, for it is cursed with the spirits of the past, waiting to prey on unsuspecting souls who dare to enter. In the dark depths of the forest, a group of friends set up camp for a thrilling weekend of forest camping. They had heard stories about the haunted woods and wanted to experience the thrill for themselves. Little did they know their adventure would turn into a nightmare they would never forget. As the night settled in, they gathered around the campfire, sharing creepy tales and laughing nervously. The woods seemed alive with whispers and rustling leaves, creating an eerie ambience that sent shivers down their spines. They dismissed it as their imagination playing tricks on them, trying to brush off the unease that was slowly creeping in. But soon strange things began to happen. It started with faint whispers in the distance, almost like voices carried by the wind. They looked at each other there, eyes wide with fear, unable to comprehend the source of these chilling sounds. It was as if the forest itself was alive and communicating with them. As the night grew darker, the campers felt a presence lurking in the shadows. Every movement was met with an eerie silence that made their hearts race. The cracking of twigs and the rustling of leaves seemed to follow them wherever they went, echoing through the dense trees. One by one, they began to see glimpses of figures darting between the trees. Shadows danced in the moonlight, their forms becoming more sinister with each passing moment. Panic took hold of the group as they tried to make sense of the spectral beings that taunted them. The whispers grew louder, transforming into menacing laughter that echoed through the forest. It was as if the haunting spirits were toying with their fear, relishing in their terror. The campers, paralyzed with fear, huddled closer together, hoping that safety could be found in numbers. Just as they thought it couldn't get any worse, the darkness seemed to consume them. The campfire flickered and died, leaving them in complete darkness. The only source of light was the pale glow of the moon, casting eerie shadows on their trembling bodies. Suddenly, an otherworldly scream pierced through the night, chilling them to the core. It was a sound that no human throat could produce, a bone-chilling wail that set terror coursing through their veins. They knew then that they were not alone in the forest, and whatever haunted the woods had set its sights on them. With their hearts pounding in their chests, the campers gathered what little courage they had left and made a desperate dash for safety. They stumbled through the underbrush, urging them forward, their minds filled with thoughts of the unknown horrors that pursued them. Finally, they burst out of the forest, gasping for breath, their bodies covered in scratches from the unforgiving branches. They collapsed on the ground, thankful to have escaped the clutches of the whispering woods. From that day on, the campers vowed never to return to that cursed forest. The story of the whispering woods became a cautionary tale, a warning to all who dared to enter its sinister depths. The haunted forest, forever whispered about in hushed tones, would forever be etched in their memories as a place of unimaginable horror. Once upon a time, there was a group of friends who decided to go on a camping trip deep into the forest. They were seeking an adventure, a chance to escape the hustle and bustle of their daily lives. Little did they know, their innocent camping trip would turn into a horrifying experience they would never forget. As they set up their tents and prepared for the night, a sense of unease filled the air. The forest seemed to be shrouded in darkness, and strange sounds whispered through the trees, but they brushed off their fears, convincing themselves that it was just their imagination playing tricks on them. As the night grew darker, they gathered around the campfire, sharing stories and laughter, but suddenly a chilling silence enveloped the campground. Their laughter turned into nervous whispers as they realized they were not alone. From the darkness of the woods, they heard an eerie sound, a bone-chilling whoop that set shivers down their spines. Torn between curiosity and fear, they hesitantly ventured into the woods to investigate. With each step they took, the feeling that they were being watched grew stronger. The trees seemed to whisper secrets as they navigated through the dense forest. Suddenly they froze as a rustling sound filled the air. Their hearts raced as they exchanged terrified glances, realizing that something was lurking in the shadows. Out of nowhere, they heard the distant sound of drums and chanting, echoing through the trees. Fear paralyzing their bodies, they stood rooted in place. The once serene forest transformed into a haunting nightmare. Shadows danced around them as they tried to make sense of the otherworldly sounds. Unable to bear the terror any longer, they raced back to their campsite. But the haunting sounds followed them, growing louder and more menacing with each passing moment. Their laughter had turned to panic screams as they desperately tried to escape the clutches of the forest. As dawn broke, they emerged from the forest, their bodies covered in scratches and their minds scarred by the horrors of that night. They vowed never to return to those woods again, haunted by the strange and disturbing events that had unfolded. From that day forward, they shared their tale with anyone who would listen, warning them to stay away from the cursed forest. The legend of the haunted woods spread far and wide, forever etched in the memories of those who had dared to venture into its depths. So, if you ever find yourself tempted to go camping in an unfamiliar forest, remember the chilling tale of these friends. Let their story serve as a warning, a reminder that some places should never be disturbed, for the darkness that lurks within can turn a peaceful journey into a nightmare you will never forget.